On this episode of Game Shack, I'm going to ask you guys whether it matters if you can put your high scores up on leaderboards, and does it matter which company you put those scores on? Coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I'm your host JDV for EvilGeniusEntertainment.com. Thanks for stopping by. All right, as the Gen 2 legacy cabs from Arcade1up begin to start getting shipped, and I think I'm hearing that we're going to see those in late June, early July. It's occurred to me now that we're going to have two companies that really have some very popular games, both of which are going to have those high score leaderboards. And I'm talking about AtGames with the ALU, and of course these Gen 2 legacy cabs from Arcade1up. In particular, I'm talking about the cabs or the games that kind of intermingle. And for our purposes, we're talking about Atari titles. So games like Tempest, Asteroids Deluxe, both of those companies are going to have online leaderboards for that. Now, by point of reference, I'm in the top 5 in both Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe on the AtGames leaderboards. Now, being in the top 5 doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot on either company in terms of world record scores. The world record scores are magnitudes higher than any score you're going to see on these leaderboards. For instance, the world record asteroid score is 40 million plus. I have a score of like 35,000, and yet I'm in the top 5. Now, of course, that doesn't mean a world record won't someday be set using one of these companies' cabs, but it did get me to thinking, how important is it to the community as a whole, or to new buyers, whether or not they can post their high score online? Because even though these aren't world record scores, it's still cool to see your name in lights, so to speak. It's still cool to know that of the people playing these games online, that you could be in the top 5 or top 10 scores. And it also makes me wonder how much of an impact this is going to have as these game companies try to position themselves to being the better or best company for online play and online scoring recognition. So right off the bat, I think it's cool that any company does that, and I'm sure iiRcade is going to have this type of thing too. I know they're striving for online play, so I'm just going to assume that all 3 of the major cabinet makers right now are at some point going to have online scoring for basically every game that allows that to happen. I don't know about you guys, but I would rather play a game that allows me to have a chance to put my high score online as opposed to an offline game. In other words, I would rather have a Gen 2 Namco machine than a Gen 1, just for the odd chance that I can break into the top 5 in the Pac-Man score. What's interesting now to me is the fact that you have some bleed over by these companies. In particular, I'm talking about the Atari titles that are on both Arcade1up and AtGames. And does it matter to you which one of those companies you have your high score on? Now, AtGames, I would say probably right now at this point in time does a better job with their leaderboards, if for no other reason than they have contests. I think every week they have a contest where if you can get a high score on there, or even just play the game and post any kind of a score, that puts you into a contest to win some swag from them. As far as I know, Arcade1up has not done anything like that yet. In other words, let's say you can post a really good score on Asteroids, say 40,000, which is a pretty decent score, at least according to the leaderboards on AtGames. Would you rather be able to post that on Arcade1up's or on AtGames' leaderboards? And for me, I suppose it doesn't really matter. I like to be able to post my score on all of them. And I wonder if someday coming down the line, there could be sort of a universal championship, say, between the top 5 players or top 6 players on AtGames leaderboards versus the top 6 players on the Arcade1up. Hey, maybe one day they could have sort of an AFC versus an NFC type of competition, you know, kind of a New World Order versus WWE type thing where the leaders from both, the high score leaders from both ecosystems come together to kind of play each other in a grand tournament. I don't even know if such a thing is possible, but I do think it is part of the evolution of this particular niche of the gaming system, where online play and online scoring is going to become ever more important. For me, being able to post a score online is definitely a factor when I think about buying a game. It's why I sold my Gen 1 Pac-Man Legacy game in anticipation of getting a Gen 2 machine, hopefully with the idea of being able to post a top 5 score in one of the games that come on those cabs. And you can see how coming down the line, the tournaments are going to be more important. Getting into these, say, top 10 leaderboards could be important, particularly if companies begin offering bigger prizes. So instead of just offering, say, a $30 a month subscription, hey, they offer you a brand new electric truck or something, because that would be something maybe that helps put butts in the seats, so to speak. Something to like, well, if you can get into the top 5 of these 5 games, you're entered into a contest to win a bigger prize, maybe season tickets to your favorite team, something like that. I do think that it's maybe not going to happen, but it could happen. It could be where these online tournaments and online scores actually start to really sway whether or not somebody buys a particular cabinet or buys into a particular ecosystem. Echo? Eco? Mueller? I know it's a very minor type question, but it is one that I do think is important moving forward as these companies really try to carve out a very distinctive niche in what is already kind of a crowded market when we see these prices going up ever higher. All right, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like this video, give me 2 thumbs down. Love each other. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time in the Game Shack. Mwah! Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much more.